Okay, so tonight is November 7th, 2024. It is 5:30 and it is time for the Trails and Greenways Committee. Going to call this to order. Use a little gavel. Cool. Okay, so roll call. Evan Pappas.
Here.
Joe Kosciuszko.
Here.
Joe Falcon.
Here.
John Custer.
Here.
Beth Dungisha is here. Mike Carr.
Here.
Please note that Terry McCarthy is absent. Anthony DiVincenzo is coming late. He should be here hopefully in just a few minutes, and Delia Archer is also absent. Okay, now we have a moment of silence, please. Okay, and if you will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so moving on to 4.1, considering approving the agenda. Anyone want to, any issues with the agenda, approve it? Okay, so Joe is motioning for approval. Any seconds?
Second.
John is seconding that.
Which Joe
Sorry,
moved?
Kosciuszko. And I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm probably said Kosciuszko. I will say it right eventually. Yeah.
Thanks, Beth.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, agenda has been approved. Now we're looking at the minutes from the October 3rd meeting. Anyone have any issues with that? Or would like to motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Evan is moving those and Joe Falcon is seconding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Cool, that passes too. Okay, then we move on to the land development. The Boiron, we've talked about that one. We've, I believe, typed up our recommendations and hopefully got those sent in, or they will be sent in very soon. The 4605 West Chester Pike, the outdoor recreation courts. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Going to be right next to the Boiron development.
I have thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not specific to the court, but it's the sports court here, but it's the development in general. So obviously that the Alice Grimm development is happening now in pieces. It's the last large open space in Newtown Square, in Newtown Township. I would like our committee to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they attempt some negotiation with the developer to preserve some open space in that development in exchange possibly for some zoning relief or make some kind of deal to preserve some of the space in this development from, the whole thing getting turned into, single family houses and whatever else is on that plan.
I
So,
don't think you can't have houses there.
have you seen the plan?
Are they allowed to put houses on?
The plan has houses on it.
It's supposed to be like a community.
I don't think it's-
So if you're looking at this development, this is the Alice Grimm Boulevard, right? There is a section of land that runs back like this, and there's a piece that actually goes back to Boot Road. This section back here is zoned, I believe it's R5, if I remember right, which would be residential in the backside.
Yeah, not the front.
Not here, not this section that they're developing now, but this section back here.
Yeah, one of the plans they sent us for review had the full development plan on it. They had all the parcels kind of called out as to what they would be. And, yeah, like you said, the whole backside
Yes.
is houses, yeah.
I believe with our.
So I don't get sidetracked if it's gonna be houses or if it's gonna be something else. My point is, this is the last open space in the township. I would like to recommend that the Board of Supervisors attempt some negotiation to offer some sort of zoning or some other kind of relief in exchange for preserving some piece of this.
I think I can help on that. This
Okay,
goes back a number of decades. Deepaton owes us 5 level acres, and he
okay,
hasn't come up with it yet. So if this is the
Mr.
last
Goodrich.
level open space, this might be a good time to make that request.
And I think with the Boiron recommendation, because there's a trail that goes right kind of across the back of that property, we had put in like wanting an easement for that trail in addition to the sidewalks, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So we were trying to at least get trails in there and the green space to have those trails, but are you looking for more than just trails?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm not opposed to it. I
Yes.
just like want to double check.
I don't know if it's, I'm not set on some exact amount of acreage, whatever. I just want the Board of Supervisors to attempt something. Well, I'd like this committee to make a recommendation that the Board of Supervisors attempt to negotiate for some open space here. I'm willing, I'm not on zoning or anything like that, but I'd be willing to give zoning concessions to maybe reduce some setbacks or allow some more building cover or impervious cover in exchange for part of this being set aside as open space. That's,
Are you open to the concept of more density?
yes,
So, okay,
absolutely.
that may be one way of saying it, allow more density to,
In exchange for
in
open
exchange
space,
for remaining open.
instead
space.
of, a bunch of buildings with their little open spaces,
Yeah.
consolidate that and have
Yeah.
an open space on
Yep.
the side. That would be great.
Yep,
Has anybody talked to them about those 5 level acres?
I don't know of any recent conversation in like the last year and a half, in the last 3 years, yes.
Okay. I mean, if we're running out of flat open space, now might be the time to pull
Yeah.
that shit in.
I mean, I think that the conversation was had with them a while back. They remembered that that was part of the thing, but they didn't have enough of this development planned to
Mhm.
say where that would be at this point, is what they said. Just, you want to make note for the record?
Yeah, and Mark, just note that Anthony got here at 5:41.
Apologies,
Thank-
guys. Thank you very much for picking up. Appreciate it.
So I have a question about the kind of the center of that property. That looks like it's, am I interpreting that right as like a drainage or wetland, or like there's a stream or something going through there? Like what is that little weird like outline in the center of?
I believe that's probably a wetland delineation, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at the whole plan again, but I'm pretty sure that's probably the wetland delineation.
And they wouldn't be able to build on
There,
that.
and in order to encroach into the wetlands, they would need to seek zoning relief.
Okay,
And so,
there may be some built-in natural features that will help with getting some preserved areas. It's always nice to have more. We were talking about this area, and Evan was hoping that the township may consider something a little bit more dense, potentially in exchange for open space or something like that, especially as this all gets developed.
The pickleball court.
Yeah.
this is the
And Anthony,
paddle, pickleball and
Yep.
squash, I think.
I had mentioned they still owe us 5 level acres.
Yep.
That goes all the way back to the 1980s.
So Steve, quick question on that. Who owns the pickleball courts then? Is that something that the township?
It's not a community owned, it would be it's a business
Okay,
that's being ran, just like just like any gym kind of thing. My understanding is that it's a 2-phase project. The first phase would be the outdoor courts. And then the second phase would involve indoor courts and other amenities inside. I think there's supposed to be like juice bar or something in I don't know, potentially, I guess, a weight room or something like that, but kind of think about it as a recreation, but focusing on courts. And my understanding is like squash, pickleball, and padel. I think I'm saying it, that how is the word they're using for it.
I even know what that is.
I've heard a different term for it, but I think that it's very popular in Europe right now, but it's spreading to the United States. I call it pickleball on steroids, in that there's glass walls that go up on the back side of the court. You actually play off the wall.
Kind of like in racquetball.
It's a similar kind of concept, and there's like no out of bounds. And so you can actually run out of the court and save the ball. And, I was watching one of the things they showed us or told us to watch. And I thought you have to have a tremendous amount of energy to play that game, because you're in the court and out of the court about equal amount of time. At least I would be, I'm sure.
That leaves me out.
But that's how it's, that's the size. I think I think they play it in a much smaller area than even, I think you can get 2 or 3 courts in a same size as a tennis court, is my understanding.
So kind of going back to Evan's point, kind of on a micro scale, I mean, this property looks like it's going to be all impervious surfaces. It looks like it's either paved or a court or something like that. It doesn't look like there's any, like, they have the green space for the little cutouts in the parking lot, but like.
To be clear, I wasn't talking about the
Yeah.
pickleball court.
Oh, yeah.
I meant the
I know,
entire
bigger
side of the
picture,
list.
but I'm like, even just on this scale, like, is there a landscaping plan or anything like that? Or is it just gonna be all
I think
blacktop
if you were to
surfaces
scroll
reflecting
down,
heat back up? And
This right now probably won't come in with just go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. This particular project right now won't come in with all of that, because this is just a conditional use plan. So when we allowed in the lifestyle village, so this is part of the Alice Green Boulevard / West Chester Pike creates, I think it's a 56-acre piece of land, that interior piece. And so, and it's zoned for a lifestyle village. One of the things that was added when they added the ability to put in the logistics center, they also added the ability to do recreational space, indoor and outdoor. And in doing so, the outdoor was by conditional use and the indoor was by right. And the difference there is that when they go to plan outdoor space, the board wanted the right to review the plan and say, you can do this. You have to limit lights to this period of time. There's conditions that they can place on the plan. By right, they can just go in and build according to our land development. And as long as they meet the land development requirements, they don't have to ask questions. They basically just go design and do. But the conditional use for the outdoor space allows us to take into account what noise may be involved, those kind of things, so that we can help say that you can do this, but you need to have these amount of buffers. You need to do these kind of things.
okay, so like that stuff, the lighting setup and all that will possibly be coming later then.
Well, that will all, the lighting and stuff will probably be discussed at the time, like on the conditional use side, because that's part of the like, if you're doing outdoor space and you say, yes, I'm assuming that they're gonna have lights on the outside and have lights on the court, because I'm assuming people are gonna wanna play this in the evenings. And I'm assuming that, particularly in this time of year, like tonight, it's just 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you had lights on outside, you could be playing and play for another couple hours and wouldn't be a problem. But so that would be addressed.
So I know there's an ordinance and I do it every time, but like, making sure that lights are shielded, so like the spillover from the light pollution from having courts open till 10 o'clock at night. I live in the neighborhood across the street and there's already enough light pollution. So something like that, I would
Yep.
definitely recommend, in addition to making sure like we get some plantings and stuff on there, a little bit of green space, and then in addition
go down
to
one.
Evan possibly with the bigger green
Go down to the
space
next- I want to see what the next.
ask.
Oh, is it freezing?
I don't want to include that in the recommendations. I want to make a motion that we recommend that to the Board of Supervisors.
Oh, like a completely separate thing.
Yes.
Can we,
Can you, I'm sorry, can you explain that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the.
Sure, it was when it was like when you were walking in.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, I'm just gonna say it. I'd like to, make a motion that the Trails and Greenways Committee recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they negotiate with this developer to provide open space in exchange for some sort of relief, whether it's zoning or something else. Building setbacks, whatever, in exchange to not develop this entire site and get some open space for public use reserved on this site.
And in the context of what you're saying, open site, I mean, the entire site, are you talking about the whole Alice Green 56 acres?
I think
Beyond
he's
that,
actually,
even the
he's
whole thing
talking
around
about
it.
the whole development.
The whole development.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm
not
saying.
just out,
I
not
know
just the
that.
lifestyle
Yeah.
village, but also behind.
yeah,
it.
I'm sorry, okay,
Yeah.
so, okay, I thought so, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause then this is just the one portion under the conditional use plan, but the whole obviously develops part, okay.
Yeah, and then John made a point about the 5 acres that are owed. I mean, I don't know anything about that, but that's great. If they want to use that, I'm all for it. I don't care how it gets done. I just want to see some piece of this. This is it.
So how
that-
is that any different than what we've done previously on making official recommendations? Because the recommendations that we make in general for land development do go to the board.
I think these are specific to the recreation courts. Oh, if you want to include it in the recreation.
I don't know.
courts,
I'm-
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
That's what
I
I'm
thought it was a
asking.
bigger scope than the recreation
Yeah,
courts. It is
I-
the entire site.
I think the difference that I hear Evan saying is that he doesn't necessarily feel like it has to be tied to this project, but he wants to make sure that it's tied as that land development moves
I see.
forward.
Because clearly
For that-
projects are coming
for the
through now.
entire
It's
site.
happening. We gotta,
Thank you. No,
I don't
that,
want to sit
that
on
makes
this and
sense.
then, the last project's happening. It's like, oh, it's too late. No, let's say it now and go for it.
We've done that before in
Especially
regards
since they own 5
to,
acres.
we've done this
Yeah.
with regards to this site before, specifically.
we
talked
talked about
about
the
that.
trails.
I think we've talked about it for
But-
trail
No,
purposes.
No, I mean, under the same context as we have, when we
Yeah.
saw that there's, remember I was talking about, they had the whole grade out of like, oh, future stuff.
Yes,
We did make recommendations that applied not just to the specific application they were going for that time, but it was for the entire site because we saw the full build out or at least a grayed out area of like what they were intending.
Yeah.
So I think that's completely appropriate. Then that's what I'm saying. We've already done that in previous, so why not? Yeah.
Mm.
And actually for this site too, but it was trails, not green space. So
and,
Yes, this is
and I'm,
space.
yes.
I'm assuming that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Evan, but I'm assuming that you're wanting not just 5 flat acres, but 5 usable flat acres for open space. Is that I mean, like if it was all wetlands, they would have to have that anyhow. I
Sure.
think what you're saying is you want something in addition to what they have to have based on what it is, but that you would like, and it doesn't have to necessarily be used for recreation,
Right.
but you want it to be something that's enjoyable to the community, that's 5 open, and it doesn't have to be 5 acres, but it has to be a flat area that people can enjoy and use.
That's exactly what I want.
So I'm just making,
Yeah. no,
just
that's
as you
perfect.
put your motion together, I just think that's important that,
I'm not tied to the exact number of 5 acres,
Yeah.
but.
no, I said 5 acres
But
because
no,
that's what John had
that's
said earlier,
That's a
but
very good,
you may actually want to just 5 additional acres besides what they've already committed, but my point
Yeah,
is that you don't want it, you want it as, and I'm saying usable, but I'm gonna call it enjoyable, but not wetlands or something that's already committed to being,
Right.
Check.
Land that's already protected is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about,
yeah,
you know,
that's what I
The
just
rest
want to
of the
make,
space.
I just wanted to be clear, so when we send it to the board, we
yes,
get that.
I appreciate
So,
that.
okay, so for what we've done then in recent meetings is, and Mark's online, right?
Yes.
So when Mark has done the notes and he's wanted very clear clarification on the exact language of which we're gonna put in the recommendations that we can then all officially vote on and
Okay.
make that recommendation. So.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read to you what I've scratched out?
Thank you. Yes, sir. That's exactly where I brought that up that way. And Evan, because he's the one that's been articulating the most, so I would say probably if you would comment directly, if he's got your vision exactly. As
Yep.
they go.
All right, go ahead,
Yes,
Mark.
please, Mark.
So motion, from the Trails and Greenways to the Board of Supervisors, negotiate with the developer to exchange zoning or increase density to preserve open space. Look to leverage the 5-level usable acres that is owed to the township.
I think add the word, I think the word Steve used, the enjoyable or usable space, I think add that word in, and I think we're good.
Okay?
Do
So
we
it's
need to
not-
say something about,
Not protected land.
yeah, stuff that wouldn't already fall under the non-development?
Maybe add a phrase at the end of there, not including the land, the wetlands or et cetera, that's already. protected.
Wetlands, steep slopes, et cetera. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have to be so specific. We're not writing the actual
Right.
final. It's the recommendation to get the intent across to the Board of Supervisors. That's
Exactly.
Yep.
I think
Agreed.
it's clear, and I think I can communicate to that,
Yeah.
to them if they have question of what you want, but.
Okay?
Good point.
Okay,
Yes.
that's an official motion, right? So you want to
Motion.
second it? All those in favor?
Who second?
Yeah, for just a
Yes, sir.
second.
Sorry.
Only because I noticed that I think we skipped over a chance for public comment, and I know
Yeah,
there's somebody here. So if
Okay.
you would like to comment on either of the two, well, particularly this item, because they just made the motion, I would want to make it open for you to be able to do that. And if you have a general comment, if you'll wait, we'll get this motion through, and then I'll allow you, I'll have Anthony have you come up and do the general comment. Okay?
So who seconded the motion?
I did. Anthony, Steven
Okay.
Chester, there. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I know we've met on multiple times before, trail walks and different things. So I appreciate your attending and supporting and contributing. Thank you. All right. And now can we?
Yes.
Motion.
Seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Hearing no opposed, motion passes. And we officially have a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding not just the conditional use plan, but the overall development of Marvell and the preservation of green space intended. Thank you.
So just so I'm clear, I don't think you've taken any action on the conditional use plan. And so before you do,
Good point. No, good point.
before you do, I would recommend that we go back to public comment. Do you have public comment on anything else in general on the agenda? Okay, then we'll let that go at the end of the meeting. Okay, I just wanted.
No, thank you. And I
Sorry.
appreciate, you know, I need help with the procedural stuff. I appreciate it. at the time.
That was my bad.
Yeah, I just noticed that we skipped it.
Well, she was helping me out. I was running late. She's filling in, so she gets a pass.
Yeah.
I had a note. I'm like.
Okay. So now I think now you want to go back, if you have a specific recommendation towards the conditional use.
Yes,
Remember that this is not land development, it's conditional use, and so the focus is on any kind of conditions that you would want to make sure that the board would consider related to the outdoor portion of the project.
so then to going back to what Beth was talking about then, and Mark, if you want to kind of help us summarize here, the specifics on the conditional use is it's an outdoor recreational space that they're having. And we are expecting that there then is going to be, properly timed lights to limit the issues there.
Fielded.
Shielded lighting, proper timing on them for limiting issues after certain hours for different species there. Plantings, native species, obviously.
Especially as it butts up to potential wetland type areas and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that would be the only other thing that I would ask the rest of the committee, on the discussion points of is there anything else from the trails perspective? We obviously had previously discussed at this property, the whole Reese's Run thing. It's really not connected to the direct property of this conditional use, so it's not same. But is there anything I'm missing from a trails perspective specific to that location on there? Just use? I don't think so. I think it more has to do with the overall Marville development and Reese's Run and the trail that we had planned there. But my brain is a bit mush right now, so I'm just making sure everybody else is covered.
With the Boiron one, we had put in a recommendation for the possible easement for a trail kind of on another section of property, I believe. Would it be good to reiterate that as we keep getting these, like, hey, we still want that, or once it's in, it's done and you don't need to do it again?
No, I don't think it hurts to, still make that recommendation in case it doesn't happen
Okay.
on the board. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. If the boron had already passed and they had it, I would say you don't need to do it, but I don't think it hurts. The other thing is because the boron hasn't passed yet, I would probably also recommend sidewalk in front for the connection. I know that sidewalk is at least in front of the boron piece, but I think you would recommend that the sidewalk go all the way out to West Chester Pike, so that people could use public transportation to come in and get there.
Okay, so Mark, for the notes specifically,
Okay,
and for our action regarding the specific of the conditional use plan, right? Is we're gonna be recommending sidewalks connecting from the Boiron property and then down to West Chester Pike. And shielded lighting with proper timers. So they're not running all night. And anything else that I'm missing, Beth?
native species of plantings.
Oh, thank you. Native planting species, yes.
And like we did with the Boreon, our trail number 8 on our plan goes through the backside of the property.
And
And
it
add
uses
that-
the
yeah.
road as well. That's part of the sidewalk. I would
Yeah,
say, but
adding
yeah.
that into the easement request. So we could probably just copy the language from the previous recommendation.
Boreon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, as long, I think you got it, Mark, and then it's something that we can make the official motion, root on. I do now have the land development, so Mr. Neese, the form, I have the proper form from Maura now on to do the land development reviews. Is conditional use, does it matter? Do I still use the same form?
You can use the same form, just remember that conditional use is, this conditional use is really only focused on the outside courts.
Yes.
And so we're not getting into really all the things of land development, that'll come back separate.
Yep.
But they
All
have
the
to-
other check boxes and things, yeah.
Yeah, but just focus on the fact that you think about it, it's outside recreation and what are the conditions you want on outside recreation?
Okay. All right. Mark, you want to read that back to us real quick? All
Yep.
right.
So for the conditional use of the outdoor, excuse me, the outdoor recreation space, shielded lighting, properly timed, sidewalk from the Boreon property to West Chester Pike, native species of plantings, and I'll pull the language for the trail easement from the Boreon.
Yep, that abuts the back of the property, yep. Okay.
Yep.
Is that the one we gotta remove?
Yeah, I think, I'm actually thinking about that. That may be better tied to the land development when they come in.
That's why I
versus
asked the
that
question,
condition,
because
yeah.
that was,
I
okay.
think that's probably better tied to the land development.
All right, you got that, Mark?
So what are we scratching?
We're scratching the trail. We already wrote it up once, but we'll scratch it from this conditional use one for
Got it.
the back of the property because it doesn't directly connect in with this outdoor recreation.
With the outdoor rec.
Does that.
Yep.
That's
okay.
in there. Yes, sir. All right.
Okay. Yep.
Do I hear a motion?
Motioned.
Second.
Motion by Beth, seconded by John. All those in favor of going exactly with what we just said for the recommendation, say aye.
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 Hearing no opposed, motion passes on the specifics of the conditional use, the outdoor recreation plan at Marvell. Thank you. Okay. 8.3, I was gonna say, I got here at 8.2 and we're down. Thank you. 8.3, 3600 St. David's, Aronimink. So this is, Steve, you had kind of mentioned before, like the plans that Aronimink was having, and I'm assuming this has something to do with the park,
So,
right?
yeah, this has to do with the PGA coming in 2026. They'll be here for May of 2026. There's a section of the Aronimink land that is about 6 acres right off of St. David's Road. Currently, it's pretty heavily treed. So if we're looking at this, they're actually asking for waiver of land development, but in the process, I just want you guys to understand what's happening. Basically, these are their courts. If you've driven by on St. David's Road where they have the tennis courts, pickleball courts, all of that is right here. This area, basically right here, there's roughly about 6 acres. And they are proposing to basically come in and mostly clear cut it, remove the trees that are there. They're going to be bringing in all of the media trailers, and all of that is coming into this section. So they're going to have to do stormwater management. And then once they've done that, then we're asking them to come back and reforest the area once they do it. The one thing I will say, I don't know the percentage, but there's quite a few ash trees that are dying in that area. So there's a benefit on some level if they go in and do it and they come back and plant. I don't know that it's the benefits of direct, because I think there's a lot of other trees in there too, but that's the area. They need that space in order to do the media piece. So that's what they're asking for.
What's the asking for a waiver from land development portion?
So the question would be, because it's a commercial, we view the golf course as a commercial, so as a commercial land. So anything that they would do on their land would require land development pretty much. And there's no building being done, and it's only temporary as they're seeing it. They're disturbing the land for a temporary purpose, and then they're going to put it back.
Are all the shade tree rules in effect as far as the amount of mitigation to be done to reforest?
I don't know that they're following all that. That's what's being reviewed by the engineer.
Okay.
But that's what's happening, and that's why they're.
But there's no upfront asking for a waiver from that ordinance yet that you.
I don't know that they're asking for a waiver on that.
Okay.
What I know that they're asking for the waiver is not to have to go through the whole land development process to clear a spot of land that they intend to restore.
Are they mature trees?
I mean, this isn't
Oh.
the first time that they've
I
done
was
a
gonna ask the same question.
broadcast. Why are they deciding on this piece of property now?
So I think there's a couple things. One is the last several events that they've had there have ran somewhere between 50 and 60,000 people. They're saying this one's probably going to be closer to 100 and some odd thousand people, maybe as much as double. So there's a bigger need based on that. And we have been pushing for them to use one of the spaces that I think was used last time as a vendor or possibly even media, to use it as a ride share drop off, because what happened in the past was ride share drop off. Actually, people were just getting out on 252 and then they were walking in, and we are trying to avoid that, particularly if we have double the amount of folks attending. And we have, I mean, they're busing people in from parking lots that are pretty far away. I mean.
They're
when-
parking people in Oaks. for this
When,
one.
yeah, I know when the BMW came in, they had people in Oaks. I don't know where they're doing. Yeah,
People,
Yeah.
yeah, I've known people have done that.
there will be people who do that. There's gonna be 156 golfers, so instead of, like 70. So there, it's a much bigger,
Which tournament is it?
it's just the PGA tournament.
It's the PGA Championship.
The
Yeah,
PGA
yeah.
Championship,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a big,
And it's in correlation with,
AT&T, which was
Yeah.
Tiger Woods' one, that was.
It's on the scale of the US Open that they had at Marion in 2013.
but all of this is also being done in the backdrop of America 250, which is
Yeah.
expecting to bring
Yeah.
tons more people to Philadelphia, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So just in general, there's going to be a lot of extra people in the area that will, you know, that were like, oh, there's a golf tournament. I'm going to go and see that too. Just adding to the number of folks coming through.
So,
So from a standpoint, I think, here's my suggestion on it. I don't think we're going to say no to them doing this, right? Because they've already got a commitment to be there and doing it. But I do think there's an opportunity for a couple things to come out of this if you want them to. We currently do not have any walkway down St. David's. And so if they're doing all of this, one thing may be that we ask them to consider putting in a path that would go down St. David's that would be a permanent path. That's a
Can I
possibility.
recommend that instead of putting a walkway down St. David's that no one will ever use, we get in lieu of funds and do walkways somewhere useful?
Well, I mean, here's what I would tell you. If we could get a walkway down there, first of all, I think there's a safety benefit to it for the event itself, because I can get people off the road. What we've found in the past is people walk down the road, and that is a high safety issue. So
Sure.
I understand what you're saying. The other thing is, if we start now, yes, no, we don't have it today, but if we could connect down to the Papermill house, which is not that much further down the road from there over the next couple, as in time, that may be an opportunity to connect 252 down to that location, and then you could connect over to Skunk Hollow. I mean, there's some possibilities here that.
we've talked about this before in other areas, like just because there isn't anything else there, if we can get a segment, it creates some momentum in the future. Well, now we have that, now we can connect there. But to your question though, I am curious about, is there any legal mechanism in the future, not necessarily for this specifically, that allows us to ask for funds to specifically to fund trails as in lieu of? Is there, I don't know the answer to this, that's what I'm asking.
I mean, I think that, I don't think there is today. I think that is something that you could suggest to the board, is that,
An ordinance that is
The
related
ordinance that-
specifically to our mission.
yeah,
That's why I bring that up, is I don't
Because-
think, because I've asked a question similar to this before of Leonard, and I don't think there is anything that we could, I don't even know if we could have get that right now, but it's not a bad idea, and it is going into the conversations that we have surrounding zoning, ordinance things, like things that we want to do for the future, so it's something that we should definitely come back to, because it could be a nice option in areas where exactly what Evan's talking about is true, is that maybe there is an area that really just, we don't really ever want to do anything there for some reason. We don't want to encourage people walking down a particular road, I don't know, whatever. And that there is an option of getting funding, or maybe if there's a large development or something that then we think we can get enough funds to fund an entire trail section, that would be amazing. Because we do that all the time at different levels of government, in my job of, you're mitigating somewhere else for the development you're doing here, and you're funding that. So there's at least that precedent, but not locally at our government level, I don't think. Yeah, but it's a good idea.
we do have it for recreation, but we don't have it tied to it.
Yes, correct. All right. Okay, so then, as far as this is concerned right now, the only concerns I would have is related with the shade tree is that a lot of times when I see the developments happening and, oh, we're gonna replant trees, it's the species of tree. They're more worried about it looking nice versus it actually being a valued natural scape and like it is now, like a very forested area. So it's like, we gotta make sure, I don't know, again, the quality of the green space is important. So that would be my only comments, thoughts. I know you were probably thinking.
Same thing, you know, not just plopping shade trees back in there. If they're removing understory, you need to put understory plants back in there. So you get that layered forest that they're removing. And so something similar is actually going back in.
Because otherwise,
not just
it's
a-
not gonna be an ecosystem.
Right.
It's just going to be a
Otherwise, you
bunch of
just-
standard
you-
trees.
You cleared an important green space that is on our maps for being priority for preservation and put up 10 trees where you just cut down 300 and, you know.
Well, even
understory that
if they
goes with it.
place back the same quote unquote number of trees, it's the idea is to recreate on the quality of the green space. That's
Yeah,
all.
but making
And if
sure.
we're removing ash trees and there's a benefit, then maybe there's some relief there. If there's removing non-natives and planting back only natives, then there's a benefit and there's possibly some negotiations there, but just making sure that it's not like what they did in some of the other developments where they cleared these huge sections and then they just plant back ornamental trees and a few other things. And you're like,
Yeah.
that's hideous. Like, I don't care. You think that looks nice, but it ruined the view from everybody else's perspective
Making sure. that
and the environmental portion, obviously.
there's, like I said, the shrubs and
Yeah.
the larger trees. So that mixed.
Yeah.
Complete ecosystem, not just the big shiny parts.
No, agreed. Okay, so I guess kind of wrapping this one up, going back. It's at this stage, am I doing the same thing with the land development review form and making that official recommendation and sidewalks? So Mark, as I'm gonna try and summarize it, is
Okay.
we are officially going to be asking for sidewalk along that section of St. David's Road.
Permanent sidewalk.
Permanent sidewalk, yes, sir. Thank you. Good call. And also in the reforesting efforts that they prioritize the total green space quality, specifically not just planting random trees, using native species, but also putting in the understory, the shade trees, the full kind of pushback to make it back into a forested area. Again, it can be used by the local species of flora and fauna.
Got it.
All right. Do I hear a motion? Yes.
No question. Back to
Yeah.
that. So I'm looking at the map right now. To extend that at some point to Papermill, you're gonna have to go to other residential.
Right, there's other houses.
I mean, that's true almost with any place that we ask
Yeah.
for sidewalk or trail. It's gonna, I mean, we're gonna be up against residential at some point.
Okay.
And this is something that even if it's way down the line, some of the other efforts we made with the official town map is those properties aren't on there yet, but technically all of the spots that are on this map, if they, so like you said, they cross residential is maybe then there's a strategic timing when we do get other sections. And all of a sudden we're, I don't know how many, 5, 6 residential spots on connecting a major segment. Then that's where we go through that process in that time of trying to put those properties as strategic locations for the trail network on the official town map at that point. That's not on there now, but who's to say when the timing of that happens? Years, decades, doesn't matter. The whole point is to set up the framework so that we can do exactly that and fill in those gaps. It might be. And you were in that meeting with me as well when we met with the solicitor. I mean, it may be. All right. Do I hear a motion to pass what we discussed there regarding the sidewalk and the reforesting effort? Motion by Beth, seconded by Joe Kasuska. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, hearing none, motion passes, and we have our official recommendations that we'll use the notes from Mark's minutes here to be able to generate and get that to the Board of Supervisors as well. Well, 8.4, Village of Four Seasons conditional use.
And this is the one that I was asking about, how far down Gradyville it goes. Because it's getting close to.
Yes. So. So if you're aware of the Village of Four Seasons on the Marple side, so if you go where the Presbyterian Church is on 252, you go back through there, you drive down a bit, and there's a road with a cul-de-sac that comes up in here. And so it's the same property owner that owns this. They also own this property here, and so they've just recently come in and done a two-lot subdivision, creating one lot on this side and then one lot on this side. Just for kind of get you perspective, the Spruce Street Baptist Church sits here and has an open space behind that. And then some houses start on the right-hand side. I think there's 4 or 5 properties on the left-hand side. And then you get to a spot right before you go across the bridge. And that not everybody knows the bridge, but there's a bridge there. When Gradyville Road was closed, for those of you that were here in town at that time, over 10 years, almost 10 years ago, that was closed. The bridge sits right about here.
So it's right next to Hunter's Run then, because that's what.
No, Hunter's Run is further up this way. This is Springton Point, back over here.
So if you.
No, I think she talked about, I think it's Hunter Runs.
Are you thinking of Hunter's Run stream?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Hunter's Run, the HOA.
A stream that has an endangered.
You have to understand, I live in Hunter's Run, so when I hear Hunter's Run, I go to where I live.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, it is.
Yes,
Yes, that does come through here. I'm sorry.
okay.
So that's the bridge that goes over Hunter's Run
Yes,
of Gradyville.
yes,
Okay. I was trying to orient myself too.
yes. I'm sorry.
No
I'm
worries.
thinking,
You're thinking the subdivision.
I'm thinking subdivision, you're thinking stream.
So sorry, I'm just gonna jump right in. Number
Yep.
1, we have a trail recommendation that goes right along that. Number 2, there was an endangered species found along that section of creek. So, and there's quite a bit of slope in this area. So I have multiple concerns about this, based on those things.
So steep slopes, endangered species.
And a
what-
trail.
And a trail, so.
Most relevant to our committee, trail.
We would like a trail that goes all the way down to the reservoir.
I think it's number 9.
Yep.
Yes, number 9 on our trail network, it actually starts from here, from the township property, and then goes all the way down that watershed, all the way down Hunter's Run and to the top of Springton Point Reservoir.
And that particular piece of woods was considered high priority for us to preserve too.
Yeah.
So, he's talking about putting in a development. I will say, I think there's an error on the plan that he sent. Because, it shows 12 houses, but somewhere in the little language in the back, it
In the
says,
notes.
these plans depict the construction of 4 apartment buildings with a total of 250 units and 137 townhomes on there.
So as somebody that does this all the time, I know that's a cut and paste error. Because those are relatively standard, the rest of the page is all relatively standard notes they copied from job to job to job. So I think that that, Evan, they cut and pasted that. That was probably from a completely different project.
needs to
I've
be
never done
fixed.
that before.
No, we've never done that before, ever made any mistakes like that.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, that trail going down. is
After I saw that.
I think if I were you though, I would at least bring attention to it. I'm sure our engineer will bring attention to it as well, but I would bring attention to it in your recommendation. I'm just.
Copy
gonna
and
say-
paste error.
I would just say, we need clarification because in the back, it says this is what's going on this property and you want them to come back and clearly say that's not.
That would be a hell of a sneak in there if that was actually intentional, but yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so specifically, is the trail that we have along Hunter's Run is on that north and west boundary there, right?
Yeah,
Of
and I
the-
think
of the
there's
run.
another property owner that kind of
Yeah,
sneaks
there
in
is.
there too, but.
Yeah.
So
But
the
it's
question
very
is,
close.
this was just very generic when it was done way back when. Does it have to be on that side?
And on which side?
The
of
reason
100
I'm
Foot?
asking is the
Yeah.
property that we're talking about on this side of where we want the trail, or is it on the opposite side of Hunter's Run? Does it matter?
It's
Because
pro-
as long as we're getting a trail along there, they can use the bridge.
They
get what
own
I'm-
both sides.
They do?
They own
It's
both
the same
sides.
owner. Okay,
It's-
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, the same owner owns.
All right,
both.
so that's helpful. Okay, so then we are directly, what I'm trying to always establish is trying to learn from previous conversations, sir, with you, Mr. Neese, about like making sure that we're attaching the right stuff to the right stuff, that we have kind of good standing to do so. That's all. So that's good. So we make the official recommendation on the trail.
So if I can, again, this is a conditional use. The conditional use is any impacts to steep slopes and the wetlands in order to put in the road that's going to go through there. That's the main reason for this conditional use. They're going to still have to come before you with another plan for the full land development. So if you, what
Okay.
you want to do is make sure you're focusing from the trails and greenways side, their impact on steep slopes and wetlands. And so not saying don't ask for the trail, it's okay to ask for the trail, but just remember the main focus that you want to be bringing in here on this one is thinking about
Their
the fact.
impact of the
If
road.
you, can you go down, I think. Please. Yeah, go down a little bit more. I may have to go back up. Yes.
So can you pull up that last map that you had out there? Or right there. So that oblong, like triangular piece, that's owned by Newtown Township, correct?
This,
No. Right underneath it,
this,
correct.
no,
Who owns that?
that's owned by the developer.
Four Seasons.
They
Not
own,
according to.
they own
Onyx.
this
Spot on.
Not according to Onyx?
and they own this.
They're already
Did they buy
developing
that?
bit.
They've owned it for years.
Cause I'm on Onyx, which is like really, really good with that stuff for like hunting.
Uh-huh.
And the two places.
Well, they
there's-
take all the property tax maps and everything and show you the property boundaries.
So
and
there's
show you
like,
who owns
it
them.
shows the village of Four Seasons, but there's a gap between either one of them. Here, I'll show you.
I'm on it right now.
So as of right now, this shows you, this is Newtown Township here.
We do not. It is Newtown Township, but we don't
No,
own.
no, that's Newtown LLC.
Yeah, but it's, who's that then?
So-
That's
That's a developer.
the developer.
So-
They,
Beaverton does that all the time. I've noticed that is there's Newtown Village, there's Newtown LLC. Newtown LLC owns a bunch of other property too. I've noticed that before. So it's an actual corporation that just makes it look like.
So
but
do
it's
they
not
want to
the
develop
township.
that whole area?
they've taken and divided that area into two different lots. The first lot is this section right here. And then you have the section that's back this way.
Yeah, which is.
And
Look,
the answer is, today, their project is here. It's a 12-lot subdivision. Here, they have other plans that they're hoping the township's going to agree to.
Is that here? Is that this little stub right there?
But
Yeah.
they have not come in with anything official.
Is that stuff?
There's nothing that's been presented to us on this side. The only thing that we had before us, you did
Yeah, here's that
they did the
wedge.
2-lot subdivision
Okay.
2 meetings ago at the board, or 1 meeting ago at the board. They're coming back with the conditional use and then they'll come in with land
And there's
development.
the Gradyville. Okay.
So they're clear. Please.
Doing it now.
By way
No,
of
they
history,
want to.
when I was supervisor, I had Pete Crassus
We have this
take a
whole-
look at the Four Seasons, excuse me? I had Pete Crassus look at the Four Seasons and see how many lots could be built by right. He came up with 9. Well, I suspect they're gonna ask for a lot of waivers and special exceptions and a bunch of things. But I think it's critical that those slopes be kept pure. You don't want houses being built along those steep slopes. I have a feeling that's what he's gonna try to do.
So So I think we all kind of know now, because we're just looking at all the maps and everything else, and we have the trail. That entire area is identified in the open space network plan as being reservation priority for obvious reasons to what you're talking about, John. Is one, they're on the watershed that directly goes to Springton Reservoir. They're steep slopes along that whole area. It's heavily wooded. So like you're talking about, so okay, now I understand, Beth, your original comments that we had was, yeah, this is like hitting every single thing. That,
Those slopes are really steep.
They are.
As you can-
Yes.
yeah, no, I totally get it. So,
But again, for the purpose of this,
no, I know.
for the purpose of
Conditional
this,
use.
Understood.
conditional use, you are looking, and I don't know if you can go down in this one. I don't know what page it will be on, but there'll be, keep going down, keep going down. Go back up one, just one. That'll give you an idea of some of the steep slopes. So they're gonna come across
It's really steep.
here. So this is the roadway.
Yeah.
This roadway has been put in the Marple to come in to the township and come somewhere along here. Can you go down further? I don't know if it includes the roadways or not. Yeah, this is it. So you can see here where they're coming across, you got some steep slopes in this way. And then there's some steep slopes and some wetland area up this way for where the road's going in.
Oh, I mean, you're saying conditional use for the road, but this
But they still have to
plan
come
that we
back.
have shows us the lots that they're doing and where they're planning to put houses and all of that stuff.
Correct, but right now, none of that is there, in order, as my understanding of it, the conditional use application is asking for the disturbance of steep slopes for specifically to get the roadways in that they want to put in at this time.
Can we say we don't recommend this
You
at all?
can,
Yeah.
well, you can say you don't recommend it at all, but you can't, you're not gonna keep them from developing it. So
Well-
what's better with the conditional use is to say the conditions that you want against it for the purpose. So if, for example, and I have to look at the application, what do you, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
They're asking for essentially a variance then regarding the steep slopes. Ordinance. There's an ordinance
Well,
for
we
steep slopes.
require, I believe I've lost track where everything is on this one because there's
Understood,
multiple things going on. Variance would be handled by the zoning hearing board, separate and apart.
Yeah.
But we have a conditional use requirement if you're going to put a roadway into steep slopes. And that's what we're focusing on, is my understanding.
I'm just trying to think of then the appropriate tact to get our message across, what we want to do. Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
I know, again, there's an endangered species that was found in the area of that bridge where this property is butting up to. How does that impact the conditional? Like, they're putting in a road, which, I mean, it's a wetland type species. So
I mean, I think that
I'm
you
trying to
could
figure out
say-
how those jive together.
I think that you could say that you don't, as one of the conditions of this, that they would need to do environmental studies to make sure that they're not impacting any endangered species. That would be a conditional use that you could put in, because it is we consider steep slopes and wetlands a protected environment,
Yeah.
right? And so you're now saying, we just want to make sure that if you're going to do this, I know we found
Yeah.
endangered bog turtle issues when we did the bridge initially. And so we had to prove that we weren't going to do anything to hurt them when we did put in the bridge. And so I don't know where the bog turtles were found in regards to this location. I think they were found on the
Upstream.
upstream side.
Yep.
On the Sweeney property is my understanding. I don't know if any were found on the other side. So, and my thoughts are, you're just asking for that protection of open, because from the open space side, you're just wanting to make sure that those are protected. If I'm saying that clearly enough to you.
As soon as you get into woodlands, you're not gonna find bog turtles, because
Right.
they need open space.
But, I mean, if you're putting in a road that's gonna cause runoff, then you're impacting the habitat that they're living in. And if that
Well-
habitat is immediately adjacent or part of the property because there's wetlands coming through the property, then it could be an issue with runoff and such.
Listen, I agree with you.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
our job is green space, right? And protecting the critters and everything else that lives within that green space. So I'm looking at it from that perspective of how is it impacting the green space in the area that we know that there is something that is federally listed in.
I mean, I would think that that populated.
I think we're all in the same boat. I think we're all like looking at this going, holy crap, like this is a heavy impact. Goes against everything that we're trying to do. And yet then trying to find out, how do we mitigate, eliminate, or offset the impact? And that's the concern, is like, I mean, obviously, we have a trail that goes through here, so there could be some good from that perspective right away. We can, there's enough of impact otherwise. That's ammunition that could be used to potentially get the trail.
I have an idea that would go speak to what Ethlyn's concerned. I mean, it's not gonna do anything about the clearing all these woodlands, but
No.
what about we recommend an increased riparian buffer from the wetlands and the stream?
So there already is a recent development. I don't know the logistics of.
This was submitted before that. So.
Okay.
this
The
is-
riparian buffer was recently just increased from 50 to 100 feet on wetlands. But I didn't know, I guess
But to Steve's point, this is conditional use, and we're saying what conditions we want to attach to it.
that's actually a very good point.
And there are, I mean, there's wetlands that are
Very good
going
point.
right through these lots and kind of crossing the street. and
I know, I like
just
that
Kind of
thought.
all
That's
throughout there.
like Steve said, you know, we're not gonna stop it. It's just what form is it gonna take? So if we get
We can
trail
help
and an
guide.
increased buffer, I'd be happy with that compromise. If, you know, it's not great. I'd like to not see this happen at all, but
Well, how many of us all agree that a trail down to Springton Reservoir would be amazing?
oh, yeah.
So
But
I agree
also,
with you.
we're
for
gonna
that.
need some parking spots for people to access it.
Again, it's a very critical first piece to hopefully something like that in the future. In the past, Delaware County has talked about the options potentially of doing that. So it's like, we have to realize that a lot of the decisions we're gonna make and get little pieces of stuff
Yeah.
done
Long view.
potentially benefits people way down the line when we're all out of this done.
I don't think it should be semi-permanent.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
absolutely. This would be this would be a natural trail.
Sidewalk.
No,
No,
no.
No.
We use that term, by the way, in the past, we've very clearly determined between sidewalk versus natural materials, trail, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of
That's a
reasons,
good- that's a good
absolutely.
point, Joe.
Having walked that area, I mean, you may need bridges and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a beautiful section of
It is.
the creek there and well worth having a trail on. There are definitely some steep slopes that will make putting a trail in there a challenge potentially. And you may need elevated trails in some spots because of that, but I think it's
The primitive,
It's
could be
worth
a
it.
primitive trail.
Yeah, it's drop dead gorgeous, it's a slope, it's like the Grand Canyon. You walk down there and everything
Well,
else goes away.
The other
because
thing
you're in
is,
your
it
own
could
little
just be
world.
the easement. Yeah. Sorry, trail with the easement.
I don't want to tell you how long to spend on your.
I know.
item. It is, you have 20 minutes,
All right,
Yeah.
so
okay.
for the next meeting.
So I guess I'll put it up. So Mark, we're on the last item of the land development review for the conditional use of the Village of Four Seasons, that's in front of us here. I believe, but I'm going to recite back, we have a consensus that we are going to emphasize with, as it pertains to the use of the road and how it's connecting in and going up against an endangered species habitat, through wetlands, we are steep slopes, we are requesting an increased buffer, a riparian buffer of any of the other development along that entire area. And also the recommendation for access trail easement along for trail number 9, quote unquote, along Hunter's Run. Sound good, Mark?
Let me read it back to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So we're requesting for the conditional use, we're requesting an increased riparian buffer along the entire length of the road. And access to a trail easement along Hunter's Run, number 9, trail number 9.
Everybody, that makes sense?
Mhm.
Good. Okay. All those in favor? Say, I'm sorry, do I hear a motion to do exactly what we just said?
Make a motion.
Moved and seconded, Evan and John.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed. Motion passes, and we have our direction on what we're recommending to the Board of Supervisors regarding Village of Four Seasons conditional use. Thank you, everyone. All right. Moving on then, nothing under future land development review at the moment because there's so much going on right now. Number 10, new business, update and possible action on trail walks. So I've got the old stuff. So the bird walk was phenomenal. I did go to that. It was really enjoyable. My daughter loved it. It's a great time. Honestly, we've done it before. It continues to be good. That's the first time I've actually done the bird walk specifically, and I really got a lot out of it too. So anyways, that was great. Thank you again for Terry, who I know is not here. The Harvest Fest was, as usual, a highlight. They kind of changed the location on the property this year, moved it closer up to the main access way. It wasn't up against the buildings where they had like all the events and
I
stuff.
was at the barn last year.
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 years ago. I'm thinking that. Oh, you're right. I missed it last year. Yeah. Either way, great event. We had a couple of trail walks. I helped with the one, and then we had some other people come in. Really good public engagement. It kind of did on my soapbox about the Trails Committee and how Garrett Williamson was a great partner and all that. So, and then the Papermill Road reopening November 16th at 1.
Yeah.
So that's the only one we have scheduled right now between now and the end of the year. As you, I think, all are aware, Terry will not be joining us next year on the committee, but she has said that she would very much like to stay involved in planning those trail walk events. So that's very gracious of her. Obviously, she commits a lot of time. She's a phenomenal volunteer, and we're all obviously really appreciative of that. So just keep that in mind. She's still going to be a resource to helping us with the public as we move into some other things where maybe one day she's running the Friends of Newtown Township Trails, who knows? But either way, we're really sad that she's not going to be part of the committee, but she is going to help continue. So if anyone else obviously has any ideas, I know this time of year then gets crazy. They're probably unlikely we're going to have another trail walk between that one on November 16th, the end of the year, unless somebody's got some ideas or something like that. We could always discuss it at the next meeting, or somebody could always send it through and let me know. And there's no saying that you don't have to make an official motion to have a trail walk or anything. So just let me know offhand, offline, if you do think there's something else we could do, something related to the holidays, anything else you believe would be beneficial. And we'll talk with Terry and use her network to be able to get the word out on that. The only other thing I will say, it's not trail walks, it's events under, is we pay attention to the Board of Supervisors agendas to see when our official town mount stop is officially gonna be on there. It's not on there yet. We're looking for, I think there's like a 30-day period. They have to like announce it, that this is on the plan, 30-day period, and then actually going, and I believe we were talking possibly
So-
January is when it would actually.
So I don't think have you submitted it formally to the township yet?
Yes, a while ago.
Who did you submit it to? Because I went back and I didn't see it. I don't have it in my emails at all.
Okay. So when we submitted it and then we voted on it, it was attached in with this. We haven't changed the document since then.
Okay, that must have been done when I was gone.
Actually, I think it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Last time.
So.
But I can resend it.
No, I can get it off of that. So you send it tomorrow, then?
Yes.
It says, okay.
I sent it tomorrow. I copied you, sent it tomorrow. It got on the agenda and it was attached. And then we voted on it, but the
Okay.
actual document was embedded. And
Okay,
we
so I'm going
purposely
to-
voted on that and did not change it since.
So I'm going, just so you know, I'm going to put it before the board on Monday night or Tuesday night to have them authorize it going to the planning commission. It has to go to our planning commission and Delaware County Planning Commission. And then it would come back to them. So I would think it would take, by the time it goes to the planning commission, comes back to them, and then I think there's a 30-day, once we do it, because it's an ordinance change, because it's a zoning ordinance change, there's a 30-day window that we have to have, I believe, and that will go out and allow people to make comment on it before they pass it. So it will probably be sometime January or February when it's officially going to be passed.
Yeah, so just, anyway, so pay attention, if you would, please, the whole reason I'm bringing it up, when it is on the Board of Supervisors in any capacity, we would like to get our committee members there to show support for the plan. It's one of the most consequential things we've done thus far as a committee. Any friends, members of the public, anyone else you know that is passionate about this stuff, the planning commission meeting that's going to talk about, and then the ultimate Board of Supervisors meeting in January, February, as Steve said. So just.
What's that date again?
So November 12th, it's going initially, it looks like he's putting it on for Tuesday to the Board of Supervisors. Well, whenever you can. So November 12th is one date in which we would be there at the Board of Supervisors to show support for it. And then whenever it shows up on the Planning Commission would potentially be another avenue to show support for it. And then finally, again, it looks like, we don't know exactly, but January or February sometime when it becomes official. We don't know those dates yet. That's what's it. Oh, good call.
Typically, they start at 7 in the evening. And depending on where it is on the agenda would depend on what time they address it.
Thank you. And then I'm gonna reach out to Terry and just make sure she knows the timing of all that so that she can reach out to her extensive network of supporters. Okay. Anything more on Trail Walks events that anyone else would like to bring up this time? Okay. 10.2 official town map. Again, we already kind of covered that. It's coming up. We're looking forward to it. So if you can join any of those times, any of those meetings in which it's actually going to be discussed. 10.3, possible action e-bike subcommittee. I was just looking to see what the status was. Honestly, I know we officially said, yeah, we like these ideas. We like the questions. Let's get them in. And then Mr. Neese, the last time we discussed it, it was in what format the survey was actually going to be going out, what mechanism was going to be used to get it to the public. And I don't know if you have anything new on that.
I don't have anything to add on that other than once we get that, we'll put it into a way. I'm thinking we're going to try to do it electronically, something that people could just do a QR code and do it, and that's how we would do it.
Okay, I could be wrong because my memory is pretty shot at the moment, but I think we sent the questions over
Okay,
after last month's meeting or 2 months ago when we did decide.
I'll follow up with Mara and see.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. If not, I have them, Joe drafted the original ones and then Mark and I reviewed them and really had no comments. So
Okay,
if I need to, I can just forward them on to you again very easily.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Review and possible action on trail maps, signs, and examples. Beth brought, just some kind of big printouts of it, but we're kind of in like a weird holding pattern, I think. Just so everyone knows, I did, Steve was kind enough to remind me of getting the budget request over. It was based upon the budget we had previously discussed in the meeting where we had it in the notes. So I just sent that over to the township tomorrow, specifically yesterday.
Anthony,
It was based upon an estimate, so that's the main thing. Yeah.
Beth and I got together and we created the signage.
Right.
To a point. So we worked on,
He seems more confident.
I know, I know. No, we're doing good. We're in a good place. It's gonna take a little bit more work to get, so we had a long time ago when I had first met with George, we talked about putting wayfinding signage, so like little maps of like you
Right,
are
that
type of
part's
thing.
done.
We.
Gotcha.
Evan-
Yeah.
Evan mocked those up. They look great. So, that would be kind of like, hey, you're at this trail junction in the meadows and that type of stuff. And then we were looking at more of the interpretation wayside. So that's let me tell you the story about the area type of deal.
That is not done.
And we picked out 2 that we were concentrating on. We're working on getting some very preliminary graphics because George had talked about possibly getting them printed as temporary signs. We would love for those temporary signs not to end up being the permanent signs. And that way the graphics on all the signs are cohesive and whatnot. So that bigger
Yeah.
pot that we're looking at, hopefully getting, hopefully with George, we can work on getting something that will just, kind of be the test run and then getting them properly designed and nice ones put in.
Yeah, and the specific funds of how we created this stuff before was for design elements, getting proofs together and actually getting some samples, I believe is what that was
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, can we give the starting map and the wayfinding signs to George to possibly produce now with his remaining budget? Could we
We
just
may
send
want
these
to
over
talk
to
to
him?
him to see what priority he has for that, because he may say, oh, I really want those, the waysides rather than the maps or vice versa. I don't know.
Have
if
a
we
conversation with him.
If we have a preference one way or the other.
George did say a couple meetings ago about he did think that he had some funding to maybe help out on that,
Yeah,
so.
that's what he said last meeting.
So let's then board him it, ask the question.
And
Why
for
not?
like the maps, I mean, we're talking like small signs just on a post.
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
Crazy for that. And then the way, the interpretive waysides would be that like 24 by 36-ish type size. And like I said, we kind of picked 2 to highlight and run with for temporarily.
And this is something that we want to try and tackle really in the new year and have a good win and get some samples out there and start to develop what these signs are gonna look for the future. Yeah. Anybody else have any comments on the signs? No? Okay. All right, old business, I just, I always put it on there, but that's just it's a reminder to everybody, including the public who may be reading our agendas and stuff of the tenets of our mission, where we are in some of these major steps. So this is straight out of.
Can I
the-
make a quick
Yes, sir.
recommendation? You've got less than 5 or
I know.
about 5 minutes and you haven't done
Yeah,
public
I know, that's
comment,
why
so I just want to.
Skip the reading, go to.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going through it. I'm just telling you, it's there. It's just gonna be there. We're not gonna go through like a,
Thank
that's
you.
why I bring it up. Meadows Preserve parking lot, anything new?
Nothing.
Okay, still on the same track? Or any major, but we're still on the same path, basically, everything's looking.
Yeah, everything, there's nothing new there. We're waiting, I'm still waiting on PennDOT for approval.
Yep.
As Soon as we get that, we can go out. I mean, they've basically approved it. Theoretically, they just haven't given us the formal approval. As soon as we got it, we're ready to order and move forward.
Understood, thank you, sir. Okay. Moving on then, 12 additional business, anybody have any?
One quick thing, I
Yes.
would like the zoning subcommittee report, or recommendations to be on the agenda for next month's meeting.
Okay. You got that, Mark?
I got it.
Zoning subcommittee report for on next month's meeting. Thank you. Yeah, truthfully, I am struggling with a lot of stuff and I have not been getting my agendas in tomorrow fast enough, so I apologize tomorrow specifically. So thank you can tell her that. I actually apologize to her already. Okay, anything else, board comment? Okay, public comment, anything else you'd like to bring up? Bunkin?
Brunken.
Brunkin?
So I'll, just a couple of questions on the, I think it's called the Newtown Street Road Multimodal Trail.
Yes.
I use it all the time, going from Lissitor up to West Chester Pike to do grocery shopping and stuff. I was curious, it looks like they finished the sidewalk along Winding Way, and it looks like the intention is to make a crossing at Clyde Lane with maybe some pedestrian signalization. I was curious if you know anything about that, or
Steve
when that might
might have noticed, I
happen.
believe.
I know that they've been trying to get, that's one of those other things, they're waiting on PennDOT approval. I think PennDOT's finally approved everything. They have the developer, it's being done by the developer.
Okay.
And so the developer, I understand, has awarded the contract to actually a township vendor. So we're pleased with that. We like the vendor who does the work. Hopefully, I would think that will be done this fall sometime, but I'm not 100% sure on that, but that was what my understanding was.
Okay, yeah, looking forward to it because it really minimizes the conflicts with cars and stuff. And the other question I had was on safety, on the point where the trail crosses Charles Ellis Drive up by Business Center Road, I think. I was curious if I think that's a private road right now. It's owned by the development corporation or whoever.
Wait,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The developer does currently own Charles Ellis. At some point, that is going to be dedicated to the township.
Okay, it will be. Okay, because I was curious about what the process might be to get something like what you have out here on Ellis, I don't know if you call it a vertical deflection, the raised crosswalks.
Raised crosswalks is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What,
That's a good question. That would typically go through a petitioning process.
so it'd be the neighborhood there
Yes,
would have to.
yeah.
Okay, got it, because.
It's considered traffic calming. And so that typically goes through a process that's on our website. If you type in traffic calming policy, it will pull up and tell you the steps that need to be taken.
Yeah, I saw the DPW form
Yep.
and stuff. So, okay, I just wanted to check because I've been, I've done that crossing a lot and I've been there. It's happened to
It's
me.
a
a couple
three-way
times.
street stop right now, right?
Yeah, it's the three-way with the right turn coming
Yep.
in off of 252. And, I've been standing there waiting to cross and I've seen guys in pickup trucks and SUVs just roll right through the stop sign.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's the process that would go through, but, okay.
Is that across from the funeral home?
Yes, it is.
I think I know what you're talking about.
That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And appreciate your continued involvement, seriously. Nice seeing you at a lot of the walks and everything. Okay, hearing no other public comment then, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Evan, second by Beth. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, hearing none. We are